forward. Wonderful. Greetings and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Health, Wisdom, and Wealth TV show, Powerful Conversations for Living Your Best Life. I'm your host, Ellen Hawkins, and my amazing guest today is Dr. Ellen Albertson, the Midlife Whisperer. So today we're using some kitchen energy here as part of our conversation about love of self, food, family, plants, and these are all kitchen things, right? So maybe it's time we start painting the picture and having conversations about the kitchen environment, about comfort foods, about a different kind of a family meal, a different kind of loving self and the relationship we have with food and our kitchens. Our kitchens probably get as much use or more than a lot of the other rooms in our homes. So I want to just say thank you, Dr. Ellen, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Phelan. I'm super honored and excited to be here, and congratulations on your new program. It's so awesome that you are sharing health and wealth with hopefully soon to be millions of people, because let's face it, everybody could use more abundance and more well-being.
Thank you. You are so right. And I'm so excited to have done this. It's been on my heart for so long, and now it's here. And to have you as a guest so early in the show's life really means a lot to me. I really appreciate you for that. And because of that, I want our audience to know who you are. I know that you're a PhD psychologist, a registered dietitian, national board certified health and wellness coach, Reiki Master, and a mindful self-compassion teacher. I mean, all of these things, I see why you've adopted the moniker, the Midlife Whisperer, because there's so many of us going through every stage of life, but midlife we've identified as one of those particular places that we need help. And with you empowering women to get unstuck and all of the things that you've done in your life and career, I just want to say, let's just jump into it.
Sure.
Loving you, loving your life, loving plants. I'm so inspired by the work that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about your journey, who you are outside of all of the accolades that you've acquired along the way.
Oh, sure. So I'm so proud of the results I get from my clients, which really are loving themselves and really changing their lifestyle so that they are energized, so that they're healthy, and really trying, and I know you've shared this, trying to change the way we look at health, right? Right now we call it a healthcare system, but it's kind of like a sick care system. People go to the doctor when they're sick. And I feel like we should have systems in place that promote well-being. And it's not about punitive, like, oh my gosh, you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you you have something wrong with you, and then you have to feel this shame because I haven't taken great care of myself. But instead, it's about loving yourself to health. So that's been my journey. I sort of started off in this journey as a dietitian. And when I became a dietitian, I was an outpatient dietitian. People were coming to me and I would say to them, well, why are you here? And they would tell me, well, the doctor told me I had to be here because I have heart disease or high blood sugar or high blood pressure or something like that. And then the next question was, so what did you eat? And they said, well, I was coming to see you. So I had, I went and I had Chick-fil-A and I had French fries and a cheeseburger and a pizza and these horrible foods. And it was this punitive thing. Like, I've been bad, so I have to see the dietitian. And I didn't have the skills and abilities to really empower people to take care of themselves from a place of self-love. And so I had to do the last 30 years since I've become a dietitian was a lot of self-investigation and developing skills and abilities. So now we can start with this idea of what's your relationship with yourself like? How do you love yourself? And then how is taking care of your body, eating plant foods, moving your body, getting sleep, working on your stress, having more fun, doing all of that from a place of self-love. And that's been my journey too. I used to be super hard on myself. I had a fierce self-critic. I was a personal fitness trainer, one of those women you see like when we used to go to the gym, right, to group exercise, who's like sitting there with, the 40-pound dumbbells over the head. Yep, I was working out like 4 to 6 hours a day with all my clients. And no matter how skinny I got, how cut up I got, how little I ate, I never felt good about myself. And then what happened to me is I was fortunate enough to find this area called self-compassion. It was the topic of my dissertation when I was finishing my PhD, and I met Kristen Neff, who is the pioneer in this whole area, and that flipped everything for me. So I started to love and care about myself, treat myself like I would a good friend, stop doing the crazy, I wouldn't say CrossFit's crazy, but that really intense we can overdo it, right? We can overdo it with even how we're eating or how we are working out. And then when I flipped and started practicing self-compassion and self-love, everything shifted. And so now I feel really good about who I am and where I find myself. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's not about punitive, it's about pleasure. So I guess I'm here to say that like taking care of yourself is really fun. It's really pleasurable. Plants taste awesome, but you know what? If you want to have the occasional steak, that's okay. Everything can fit. So for me, I pretty much eat mostly vegan. I'm vegan 90, 95% of the time. It's what I eat most days. But you know what? If I feel like having a hamburger, I'll have a hamburger. You know, hopefully it's sustainably grown and it's something I do occasionally. And I'm finding I'm not even craving those foods anymore. But I think when we start with this place of I can't have this, whether it's sugar, whether it's animal products, it's all about what I can't have. And of course, that's what we want. And so my way of working with people is like, be kind to yourself. Do this because you love yourself. And let's find out ways of eating right that are fun and taste good.
I love that. And I think that you summed it up in a nutshell with loving yourself and doing things that are fun and good for you. And, we were talking earlier and we were talking about being in the kitchen. And, we know over the past almost year now, we've had to make some major adjustments around how we're doing everything on and off of lockdown, working from home remotely, jobs, businesses in a virtual environment like never before. And today we might even be working jobs from the kitchen table that changes the environment of the kitchen. We're doing business deals, we're homeschooling in locations around the homes, but sometimes we have to even do that in the kitchen. And let's not forget that we're also preparing meals and feeding ourselves and our families in the kitchen. And our gatherings in the kitchen are different now than they probably have been over generations, where the kitchen was the gathering spot. And it's been in this shift for quite some time now. And as we're trying to figure out where things are going, kind of settled into where things are. But as we're trying to figure out where things are going, how can we look at the kitchen as being something that's not just that thing that's set aside that we bring food in and and we're gone? And, bringing that into a place of seeing it differently. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and I love that you're bringing this kitchen in. You know, it made me think so much about hundreds of years ago where the hearth was the heart of the home. Hearth, heart, sort of words are very similar, where the kitchen is where we gather and food is our major source of life. And so I think there's a sense of bringing sanctity back to this kitchen where so much is happening, but also to get away from this, this gobble gobble thing. I do a lot of coaching with people who I have these conversations with people and they've been wearing sweatpants and they've been like working in their kitchen, snacking all day. And all of a sudden they've gained 5, 10, 20, 30 pounds. They go to the doctor, they step on the scale and they're like, oh my God, what happened? The mindfulness piece is so key. This sort of sacredness, this hearth, this heart of our home, to bring that sanctity back to the kitchen, but at the same time too, to also become mindful about what we're eating, how we're eating, when we're eating. Because what I've seen with so many of my clients is when we got the lockdown, it was just an all-day eating fest. Like people weren't eating meals. When they went to work, they would have their lunch break. A lot of places had company cafeterias. Maybe you have your breakfast, whatever, smoothie or bagel on the way to work. you get to work and then you have your lunch break and you have the cafeteria, and then there's this sort of this definitive dinner. You come home, you cook for yourself, your spouse, your family. And what ended up happening with the lockdown is that people just started eating. They didn't have definitive meals, and they snacked their way throughout the day. And that's where I saw a lot of people gaining weight, also because of all the uncertainty, all of the stress of homeschooling and the uncertainty of what's going on with the virus and our government. People were eating because they were looking to food to feel better. They were doing a lot of emotional eating. While there's nothing wrong with, some amounts of emotional eating, that's not what food's for. So, to sort of answer your questions, we have to sort of re-look at our relationship with food. We have a relationship with food. And so a lot of people have gotten away from being mindful about what they're eating, having sanctity around cooking and the kitchen, and just sort of just snacking all day. And I think what we're going to see is when things open up again, there's going to be even more obesity, more diseases associated with a poor lifestyle, a poor diet. People have me going to doctors. So we're going to see more of this kind of thing because people have gotten away from, having 3 definitive meals and maybe 2 snacks to sort of snacking and eating whatever they wanted, because it's the fridge, and my fridge is right there, right? And it's very, as animals, we want to eat more, particularly when we're stressed.
So what's one of the first things that we can do to kind of hone things in, bring things in, and create a new set point?
Well, the first thing to do is really, really simple, is before you eat anything, just ask yourself, am I hungry? Because what happens is if you're hungry, there's a feedback mechanism, like a thermostat, right? You're hungry, you eat, you get full, and you stop eating. But I think about this in acronym HALT, which stands for hungry, angry or anxious, lonely, tired. I throw boredom in there too, because that's, I think, what people are feeling, that, anxiety, the anger, the stress. If I'm eating because I'm angry, well, there's no feedback mechanism, right? So it's like if I start eating and I'm not, and I'm already full, and I'm eating for stress or anxiety or boredom or loneliness, what happens is I just keep eating. And so not only do you get to this place where you've eaten too much and you are perhaps doing a disservice to your body, at the same time, you haven't solved the issue that is making you anxious, angry, lonely, or bored. So food's not meant to solve those issues. So if you stop and you ask yourself, am I really hungry? Is this a body sensation? So we feel hunger in lots of different ways. So it might be, rumbling in your stomach, might be a lightheadedness. I actually get cold when I'm hungry, which is kind of interesting. People get that angry, hungry thing. So noticing what is my body feeling, and giving yourself what your body needs when it's hungry, and stopping when you are satisfied rather than stuffed. We just ate until we were 80% full instead of, at that 110%, which we're doing. Stop this all day snacking because we're anxious. That would go really far. So just ask yourself, am I hungry? Maybe rate your hunger. Or is your hunger at, a 10 where you're really, really hungry? Or is it, you want to be eating when you're sort of at this sort of 7 or 8 where you're hungry, but you're not so starving? Because when you eat when you're starving, you often eat too much because you're over hungry. So we have to kind of get in touch with our natural signals of hunger and satiety.
That's a great thing to next speak to, because a lot of times, and I noticed that for me, when I was overweight, when I was really just not connected to the sensations and the things that my body was telling me, I didn't know when I was hungry. I didn't know when I was full. I just knew there was food, let's eat, or it's time to eat, let's eat. And that was it. How do we get back in touch? Do you have a tool or mechanism or another acronym to get back in touch with our innate knowledge about hunger and being full?
Yeah, that's such a great question. One of the tools that I use with my clients all the time, and if people want this tool, you can just email me at ellen@drellenalbertson.com, or just go to themidlifewhisperer.com and contact me and I'll send it to you. But just keeping a hunger journal. So, initially, like you said, you weren't in touch with those signals. We've lost touch. Like you think about a baby, particularly for babies nursing, when there's no like bottle and mom's or dad's not like, okay, it's the baby, finish the bottle. but you don't know how much the baby's consuming. So the baby will naturally, it'll cry when it's hungry, it'll get, a nipple, it'll eat, and it'll stop. And so we have this built-in mechanism, but we have to get in touch. And a great way to do this is just keep a journal. So you can, ask me and I will send you a journal of that, or simply write down whenever you're about to eat, you do that pause and you ask yourself, am I really hungry? You rate your hunger from a 1 to 10. So thinking about like, where are you right now? Like I just had lunch. Didn't have a big lunch because I was rushing to speak with you, but I'm at a 4 or 5. I could eat a little more, but I'm certainly not starving. So it's going to take a little while to get in touch with your natural hunger. And this can be particularly difficult if you've been on diets a lot, because what happens with dieting is that the diet tells us to pay attention to this piece of paper, right? Or this app that tells us, you've had your 1,000 points or your 1,600 calories. And so we're like, well, do I get more points today? Do I get more calories? And we're really putting our hunger, we're trying to put our hunger to sleep. I don't want to pay attention to that hunger. Hunger, when you're in that dieting mode, is something that's bad. Like, I don't want to be hungry because then I'm not going to stick to my diet. But hunger is your friend. I know personally, I stop when I'm hungry. I eat, I eat when I'm hungry. I stop when I'm satisfied, and my weight stays the same. I don't need to get on a scale. I don't need to count any calories. I eat, whole foods, plant-based, lots of bulk all the time. So I have food that has a lot of satiety to it. But so start by simply checking it. It's kind of, I like to think of the metaphor, like when you have to pee, you go to the bathroom, right? When you're hungry, we have these physiological, when you're cold, you put a sweater on. So we have to start paying attention to our bodies. And often we just live from the neck up and we're not in touch with this beautiful chariot that takes us through life. And so just start to figure out, how does hunger show up for you? Is it, again, that rumbling, that empty feeling, lightheadedness? What happens when you feel hungry? And if you're not sure, we'll go a little overtime. So if you usually eat lunch at like 1 o'clock, maybe go to 2 o'clock. Notice what that feels like. Go a little later with your dinner until you start to really feel that physiological sensation and make friends with the hunger and satiety, because your body wants to be in homeostasis. Your body wants to get to a healthy weight that's right for you and stay there. And your body has lots of chemicals that tell you when you're hungry and tell you to start eating and tell you to stop eating. So appetite is tightly regulated by the sensations of hunger and satiety.
That's really good. That's really good. And I recognize that that is the process that I went through. Personally, it was very helpful because not only did I recognize when I was eating, it was what and how much as well. And not from a perspective of, oh, that was too much, or that wasn't enough, or I was still hungry, or, from a critical perspective. It was from a knowledge perspective. And I love the fact that, and you started out saying it, we have to unlearn some of the things that we've learned and learn what it is that our bodies are telling us and are able to tell us. There was a point in time where, who knew that your body was talking to you like that? And someone had to say, oh, that's your body saying that you're hungry. Or, I'm rubbing my eyes, I'm yawning, oh, that's your body telling you you're sleepy. Oh, and, we've learned these things as we were growing up, hopefully, but with a lot of what the food industry and the sick care industry have helped us to do is to squelch that knowledge. And now we're at a place where there are beautiful people like you, shows like this that are helping people to come into a place of relearning so that they can know themselves better. And I want to talk for a minute about the fact that, we will be coming out of this pandemic at some point. And before we even entered it, we had half of our nation's population was obese. Half of our nation's population that was obese had underlying issues, either, cultural. This is how it's brought up. We eat these huge meals every day. We eat meat for breakfast, meat for lunch, meat for dinner. We do the standard American diet was what I lived by. when now we know that a lot of what we had learned in the past really turned everything upside down. It was a lot of the cause of what we're seeing, or what we were seeing initially, as far as the obesity and chronic illness and the things that we were already faced with coming out of the pandemic. What's your take on where we're going to be, and why is this so important? Why is it so important to be in this conversation?
Yeah, wow, that's so many things to talk about. Well, first, I was looking at how our food waste have changed during the pandemic, and certainly like 24, 25% more alcohol. And certainly that's adding to calories, and there's lots of other health issues there. A lot more fast food, junk food. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and she's like, well, I just can't get fruits and vegetables because I don't want to go to the store. And I said, this thing called Instacart, you can order things. But I think that we've gotten away from, farmers markets and eating more produce and things like that. So there's so many things we could talk about with this. I mean, one of the things that's so important that it hasn't been in the conversation too is that there are so many things you can do around your lifestyle to strengthen your immune system. And we know that people who are overweight, people who have diabetes, hypertension, these diseases that are associated with not the healthiest lifestyle, have a higher risk of not necessarily getting the virus, but if they get the virus, higher issue, heavier issues in terms of the kind of damage that their body is going to experience. Because if you get the virus, God forbid, what happens is your body, has an immune response which can attack your body. So we're in this place right now where I think that we're not empowering people to take care of their bodies so that their immune system is healthier. We're also in this place where people's diets have really gone downhill because of the virus, because people are home, they're bored, they're lonely. What happens is we have all of this cortisol that is produced when we are stressed, and there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear. And so instead of finding ways to manage our stress and our fear and dealing with that, we go right to the dopamine, and that's where the food and the alcohol are. Dopamine is the chemical of reward. So when we go to dopamine, it kind of covers up the cortisol. I like to say cortisol shitstorm that's happening, but we're all experiencing right now. We go to the dopamine, but the problem is that when we are reaching for that dopamine, not only do you need more and more dopamine, so more food, more alcohol to feel better, but then we're really hurting our health. And so one of the things that needs to happen, I like to teach people how to uh, increase their levels of what's called oxytocin, which is the hormone of care and connection. So we need to get away from this idea of eating to feel better. And I think the food industry fuels that, right? It's like, you feel bad, have a cookie, have a threesome with Ben and Jerry's, grab a spoon, watch Netflix. And so we've, gotten into this place where we're wanting to feel better by eating, by drinking, by watching more television, instead of caring for ourselves, connecting, raising the oxytocin. And also, exercise has really decreased for people because people don't have their gyms, their yoga studios. People are more scared even to go out for a walk. So I think at the other side of this, we're going to have, I think, a society whose health has degraded considerably because we've taken such poor care of ourselves during the pandemic. And it's harder to shop for healthy food. We're more apt to eat those comfort foods, and we're less likely to move our bodies. And also, people are feeling low and depressed and bored, and they're just not taking care of themselves as well as they were pre-pandemic.
Definitely something to be in more conversation around. And it's so important because I know I hear a lot of people saying, I spend too much time in the kitchen. I don't have time to cook good meals. It's too expensive to cook good food. I'd rather, drive down the road, put my mask on, and go through the fast food lane. And they continue to confirm that this lifestyle that you were talking about is unavailable to them. Yet I know just the contrary, that while good food and preparing good food does take time, it's the care, It's the loving of self that you do these things so that you can put the good food in you. I also know that cooking good food doesn't really take that much longer than cooking, the spaghetti and meat sauce with all the sugar and ketchupy stuff in it. And healthy food is less expensive than fast food. I've learned that. I was like of this mindset that I spoke about, but I've learned that through experiencing that. What would you encourage someone to do to get in the kitchen in a different way?
That's such a good question. Well, I think the first thing is changing your perspective. I love to cook. Like I had a really stressful day yesterday, and you know, my days I work hard, and at the end of the day, I love to cook. So the first thing is changing that mentality that cooking is like playing. It's fun. You're using all of your senses. You're spending time with people that you love. So changing your mindset that cooking is fun. It's not a chore. Of course, I have a partner who does the dishes, and that's lovely, and he does a lot of the chopping for me too. It's not, it's first of all, it's fun. It's not difficult, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Like I have two Instapots. Have you have an Instapot? It's the best. Those,
Yeah.
it's a newfangled pressure cooker, right? So like tonight I'm gonna make minestrone soup. So I'm just going to literally throw a bunch of things in this big pot, push a button, and 10 minutes later there's food. So I think that it's part of our changing our minds. And also, as we said earlier, like eating is it's alchemy. It's sacred. It's important. Like I don't have time, but like, what is your health worth to you? And it's fun to create beautiful meals. Like I'm going to make not tonight, tomorrow. I make this wonderful mushroom stroganoff with this sort of tofu cream, and it's got like sauteed mushrooms and dried mushrooms, and even when you said the spaghetti sauce, look for plant-based things that can, healthier substitutes. So if you're, like you were saying, spaghetti and meatballs, so I could have a, organic natural sauce with no sugar. I could get even they sell in Costco. This Beyond Burger makes sausage, meatballs, hamburgers. Tastes so much like the real stuff. They make meatballs now, which I saw the other day, which I was like, wow, it's so easy. And then you can also even buy healthier pastas. You could buy a whole wheat pasta. I'm gluten free, so I love the chickpea based pastas that are very high in protein. So it doesn't have. Last night for dinner, all we did was we had the Beyond Burger burgers, and we cut up some raw vegetables with hummus. And then I made some sweet potato fries, which really were as simple as chopping up potatoes and then putting them on a tray and sticking them in the oven. So I make dinner, 10, 15 minutes. So I think we've got to change our mentality. You do have to do some prep and some shopping. So, but even with the pandemic, most, cities, towns, you can do the Instacart. So you don't have to, if you're worrying about going in the store, but just come up with, maybe just start with just a couple of meals. I usually tell my clients, think about like 3 things that you can have on hand all the time. So maybe you have some kind of burger, maybe it doesn't have to be plant-based, but it could be like a turkey burger or a plant-based burger, or I really like the bean burgers that are quick, simple, and easy. Maybe you have like a soup, and then maybe you have like a pasta dish. So 3 things that you can have. And so you're not, when you want to do takeout, sure, some people are doing it. It's fun. There aren't a lot of, we don't have as many outlets as we did, but doing it because you want to do it. It's Friday night. You want to go out and have some fun rather than I don't have anything at home to cook, so I'm going to go out. Salads are another great thing to do. I mean, usually for lunch, I just take, pre-washed, pre-prepared things. So you can buy, broccoli, carrots, lettuce, all washed and ready to go. All you have to do is take a handful of lettuce, throw it in a bowl, baby carrots, washed broccoli, maybe open up a can of beans, and you've got a great meal. Maybe, microwave a sweet potato. So it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be super fun. And I think that maybe, give yourself a challenge to just try it for a couple of weeks and notice how much better you feel. Notice how much money you save when you don't eat out. You have so much more control, but you do have to do some prep. You do have to set aside some time, but put some music on, make it fun, make it time to like spend with your family. And it's really a beautiful part of life.
It really is. I have enjoyed it. I think not long ago when you and I spoke, I was talking about, but I don't know how to make this stuff. And honestly, it's been a real treat to do stuff like stuffed cabbage with Beyond meatballs in them. And, so my daughter the other day did jambalaya. with Beyond Burger brats, cutting them up and putting them in it. I mean, so there are so many things that we can do that are, not far off of what it is that we had been doing, but that are so much more healthy alternatives. And, I was going to ask you about, because there's so many other myths around this healthy lifestyle and loving yourself. What's one of the number one myths that you often hear about self-care or eating healthier that is really holding people back, that, they come to you with, and you're like, you have the answers?
Yeah, so I can give you one for each of them. So starting with the self care piece, the number one reason that people don't practice, particularly women, at midlife, don't practice self care is that they think that it is selfish. There's a lot of the guilt. So when they do the self care, whether that is finding time to exercise, finding time, to take a nice bath, read a book, cook a beautiful meal for themselves, they think about the family, everything comes first, right? So that the work, the spouse, the kids, the dog, the housework, all of that stuff comes first. When they start to engage in self-care, they feel guilty. And so because you're feeling this negative emotion around taking care of yourself, you don't do it. But self-care is not selfish, it's self-preservation. Just like when you're on the airplane and they tell you, put the oxygen mask on yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you don't have time, you don't have energy for everybody else. So it's coming to change this idea of self-care. Now more than ever, we really need to be caring for ourselves. We need to be caring for our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our spirits, and be using relationships to get that self-care. So self-care isn't selfish. And in terms of the healthy eating, I would say the biggest myth that, first, besides the fact that it's hard, and this idea that it doesn't taste good, which is completely bunk, that, it doesn't have to be this all or nothing. So I think I don't know if we were saying off air, like, I eat mostly vegan, but I'm not like, oh, I'm a vegan, I never touch meat. If I go out and somebody makes a beautiful, I've got a frozen nice organic chicken downstairs I'm going to make Friday night. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can start really small. You can just say like meatless Mondays. So Monday evening, I'm going to have a vegetarian burger instead of the regular burger, or I'm going to, make a stir fry with tofu instead of using chicken or shrimp or beef. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And it's also really important, we haven't brought into the conversation, the impact it has on the environment. Like one hamburger is the equivalent of driving 20 miles. Beef uses a ton of resources. So it's a really great way to be kind to your body, be kind to the planet, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Start really, really small and just decide, maybe one meal a day, one meal a week. I'm going to move in that vegetarian direction. You might find that you actually like it. I know I talk to so many people and they're like, I'm meat and potatoes, right? Or I'll talk to the wife and she's like, well, my husband does meat and potatoes. And you got to kind of like try these new things, because I think they're making the new like fake meats are so good that I know a lot of vegetarians, vegans who won't eat them because they're too meat-like. So this new stuff is just awesome, and it doesn't take any more time to make than a regular hamburger. I think it tastes as good or better. So just get out of this sort of all or nothing. And I think, again, flipping this and saying, it's not punitive. I'm not doing this because the doctor told me my cholesterol is high, or I have high blood sugar, or whatever, or I need to lose weight. I'm doing this because I love myself and I want to take care of myself.
And that's beautiful. And you said something that's really important too, because I have a couple of relatives and some friends who, even when the doctor's saying, we're going to increase your medications or start you on these medications, or, surgery is the only answer, when I know, based on what I've learned from experts like you and medical doctors, surgeons who know the value of whole food, plant-based diet and lifestyle, that these medications and potentially surgeries and the like are not really, and I'm going to say it, not necessary. A change in diet and lifestyle can eliminate some of the health issues that people might be faced with. And I love that we have the ability to do this on the front side in a vein of prevention and loving ourselves. But why would people, and I asked this, I know the answer, but I don't know the answer. How is it that people don't want to love themselves enough that when they are in these critical situations, they're choosing not to seek out an alternative in diet and lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think that the self-love piece is something that we're not taught, it's not modeled, it's not valued. And again, the sort of selfish piece, like I will talk to clients, I'll have initial conversation with clients and I'll be like, how's your relationship with yourself? And they'll be like, how do do you love yourself? And they're like shrugging their shoulders. We don't know what that looks like. And that's why I'm so excited to be part of this field of self-compassion, which is really the how of self-love. When we treat ourselves like we would a good friend, when we notice when we're stressed and suffering and we give ourselves what we need and we take care of our body, then we start to really love ourselves. So I think part of it is that we're having these conversations now, but we've seen our moms, right, beat themselves up. I'm not good at, we think we need our self-critic to motivate us to change. And the self-critic is really this internalized voice of early caregivers that tells us that we have to be a certain way, and we get used to this voice. And from a neuroscience perspective, we've got these tracks in our brain that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not worthy of love, all of those kinds of things. And the biggest issue in humanity right now is that we need to love ourselves, and we need to love everybody. We need to get beyond what race somebody is, what gender somebody is, all of these things, and just see the divinity in everyone and everything. If we saw how amazing we were and how amazing our trillions of cells are that are just trying to keep us alive, we take care of ourselves. So we need to change our self-concept and see that you're really, if you're listening, you're worthy of love. And that starts with loving yourself. And the beautiful thing is that when you love yourself, then everything falls in place. You attract more people that you love. You don't do things that insult your soul. You don't want to eat crap because you care about your body. Eating junk food doesn't feel good. I think so. That's a piece of it. We haven't been taught how to love ourselves. It hasn't been modeled. It's not put forth as a value. We kind of have more of this attitude of no pain, no gain, right? We're supposed to beat ourselves up. Everything's supposed to be difficult, supposed to be hard. We need, especially in these days, we need to get softer with ourselves, more loving, more tender. We need to, hold ourselves in a warm, loving embrace. The other issue is that, our medical system, docs get like maybe an hour of nutrition. So they're not schooled. And this is changing. And I know a lot of amazing doctors that are with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and they're doing lifestyle medicine. And certainly like where I live in Vermont, UVM has a big initiative around that. But a lot of doctors, they don't have the training or the time, the ability to sit down with someone and say, have you thought about changing a lifestyle? And so instead they get out the prescription book, and that they're just following their protocol, which says like if someone's blood pressure is high, you might send them to the nutritionist. Some doctors are doing that, but I think that we have to really give people a shot at doing that and really help them. And I think a big issue, at least what I learned when I was a outpatient dietitian like 30 years ago, is that people are not at the stage of change in terms of readiness. We have stages of change, and they're in this pre-contemplation or maybe contemplation. They're not in this place of preparation and action and then maintenance. And so we have to help people to get to this place where they have a sense of self-efficacy, that it's not hard to change. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can just walk a half a mile to start with. You don't have to go sign up for a marathon. Some people want to do that. They want to go all out. I'll change a marathon. It's the difference between, if I'm learning Spanish, do I want to learn one word a day, or do I want to book a trip to Barcelona? So I think we need to empower people. And just to give an example, my partner Ken was diagnosed with high cholesterol and high blood pressure. The doctor was ready with the prescription pad. He didn't want to take medication. He changed his lifestyle, and he's fine. So if you're listening, you don't have to go there. All of these diseases, hypertension, heart disease, high blood sugar, and a lot of cancers are all preventable, or at least reduce your risk through diet. I know some people, change their diet, but most people I know in the vegetarian whole foods diet is really one diet that does it. I think that's another piece too. The nutrition confusion that's out there is crazy, because it's not that exciting to tell people, eat more plants, don't eat anything your grandmother wouldn't have eaten, and eat less. I mean, that's it. I have a master's in nutrition and I'm an RD, but really that's That's it. That's going to change your microbiome. That's going to change your weight. That's going to reduce your risk of all of these diseases. And also, you're just going to feel fantastic. So I think we need to, we think about, veganism, and it's so strict and it's so hard, but it doesn't have to be. And you can start really, really slowly.
So say those three things once again.
Eat more plants. Don't
Yay.
eat anything your grandmother wouldn't have eaten, and eat until you're satisfied rather than stuffed. It's something that Michael Pollan, who writes a lot about nutrition, put together. It's just basic stuff. And I think we know
Yeah.
that. But we think, can it be that easy?
And a lot of times that's the issue with people. If it's too easy, it's something's wrong with it.
Right.
So we're here to tell you, even if it's easy, it's doable and you can get the results that you want, like the weight loss, the getting off of medication, the not getting on medication. And I love that. Bring me the simplistic stuff that I can understand and want to do, that it's easy to do. So we're talking about food, we're talking about love. What's the thing that you use to connect the two, food and love?
Well, I guess I think about food is the way that we interact and get love from the moment that we're born, right? Baby comes out, gets some cuddling, and then you're nursing. And so food is life. Food is energy. Everything that we eat comes from sunlight. You're made of sunlight. And so just this idea of loving yourself to health by giving yourself the best fuel that you can. That, the food is, I think about, I was a celebrity chef in the 90s. My ex-husband and I were the cooking couple, and we used to talk about cooking is like making love. You use all the same senses. You use your eyes, your sense of smell, your sense of taste, your sense of touch, all of these senses. And so food it's love, but we have to not go to that extreme where we're asking food to do more than it's supposed to do. So when we're lonely, when we're feeling this need for love, and I think that's where it goes to the extreme, where people are looking to feel that comfort. So yes, to have comfort in food, to create beautiful meals for ourselves and those that we love, but not to go overboard to compensate for the fact that you're feeling lonely, you're feeling sad, to get some help to learn how to deal more productively with your emotions. That's a lot of the work that I do, particularly for people who are emotional eaters and having trouble uncoupling, who are looking to food to feel better. And sure, food can be celebratory, it can feel good, but you have to get that balance. And also, just to say, if you're listening and this is hard for you, you're not know where to start, there are tons of professionals, myself included, who are really skilled, and not just the what you should eat, but how do you get there, that can hold you in a compassionate way, in a kind way that's not judgmental, and say, I understand that you might have some food addiction, you might have some emotional eating, and let's talk about more productive ways to deal with those difficult emotions. Because when people are afraid to feel their difficult emotions, we're taught it's okay to have joy and gratitude and happiness, but the sadness, the loneliness, the boredom, the anger, we're told to stuff all those feelings, and sometimes we stuff those with food because we feel better temporarily, but then we're still stuck with the difficult emotions. And on top of that, we've engaged in a behavior that maybe has not been so great for our health. So there's this connection between food and love, but we have to not take it to the extreme. We have to find this balance of loving ourselves by cooking beautiful meals that are good for us without going overboard.
Oh my gosh, that is just so beautiful. I love it. And so here's something. A friend of mine sent me this question. What about snacks? What are some of the best snacks? And do people have to convince themselves to give up snacks?
Oh, that's a great question. No, snacks are great. And because again, when we're talking about hunger and satiety, you don't want to get to that point where you're 10 or you're 11, where you're going to eat your cat, right? Like you're so hungry that your appetite's out of control, because that's when we're at that place. First of all, we're miserable psychologically, and we're more apt to not eat something healthy. You're so hungry, you come in the house and you just are gobbling, gobbling, gobbling. So snacks are a super way to bridge that gap. So you keep your hunger under control, you keep your energy under control. So when you're making a snack, what I like to do is I like to think about one aspect of the snack is a fruit or vegetable, when one aspect is a protein, and then maybe like a small carbohydrate. So for example, I could have an apple and I could have nuts. So I'm having, or I could have apple with a little bit of peanut butter. So I'm getting my produce, right? So I'm getting my apple, and then I'm getting my nuts, which contain fat and they contain some protein. Or I might have like baby carrots or celery, kind of vegetable with some hummus. Or I might have, again, yogurt with a little bit of fruit. So, and I usually like to think about snacks as somewhere between 100, maybe 200 calories, but really trying to have a serving. So thinking about a snack as not just, we tend to think of snacks as like, I'm gonna have some potato chips, I'm gonna have, a candy bar, this, and it can, you can have treat. There's no issue with having, let's say, like some chocolate dipped strawberries with, again, maybe a little bit of yogurt for your protein. But or having maybe like some chocolate chips with like in a nut mix, so you can have a little bit of that sweet, that crunch. But to when you're doing snacks, to make sure it's portion controlled, so you don't want to have your snack be a meal, particularly if you're trying to maintain your weight or lose weight, and trying to fit in at least one serving of produce. So smoothies are another great snack. So you could blend up some berries with some protein powder and maybe some water or some greens. Maybe having some cottage cheese with, again, a little bit of nuts, a little bit of fruit. So snacks can definitely fit in, but you just want to keep it in that 100, 200 calorie range. Try to get some produce in and look for it to be a healthy part of your whole day. So again, taking some time to prepare, to pack a snack. I never go anywhere without a small handful of nuts. I always have some nuts, some dried fruit, because I don't like being hungry. I don't think straight. I don't feel good. So there's totally nothing wrong with snacking, and snacking can be a really positive part of your whole meal plan.
Awesome. So I've got one other really great question for you. I think it's a really great question. What's your perspective on using food as medicine? And do you believe that it's an important mission for a movement? It is a movement, but give us your perspective.
Yeah, no, I think it's really, really important, and it's an issue right now, because if people were healthy, then there's all kinds of organizations that go out of business, right? Like everything is set up right now to treat disease, not to elevate wellness. So, in other cultures, doctors are paid because they keep people well. So I definitely think that it definitely is a movement, but then of course we have to take a look at, the junk food industry, right? Like, and what those places are, those organizations are pushing the junk food, they're making money. And part of it too is that there's no money to be made like in carrots, right? There's not a lot of branding. There's nothing that you're adding to it. I've got some bananas over here, they're like 69 cents. It's a banana. It comes with its own package. It's got maybe a little sticker on it. So I think it's definitely the direction that we need to be heading. But I think that there's a lot of uncoupling that needs to happen. And we somehow have to get some of the funding that goes, I think you call it sick care, right? That goes into more preventative care. That's starting to happen. More money going into dietitians and health coaches and creating healthier environments. Like a lot of workplaces now want people to be healthier because it pays for them to reduce the amount of disease, to have healthier, happier workers, to have people who need less procedures. That saves them a lot of money. So I think it's the direction that we need to be going in, but there's a lot of work we need to be doing it. But I think an important point to note too is that we vote with our dollar. So, you can go into Costco and you can buy organic vegetables and you can buy Beyond Burger, or you can buy chips and packaged foods and all kinds of things. So I think we each have to create more of a market and more of a desire, and we lead more by example, and we get away from these ideas that cooking is hard and it takes too much time, and we get away from working so many hours and finding what's truly matters in life. Like if you could say to somebody, well, would you do this if you're going to live 20 to 30 years longer? Like, would you take half an hour a day to do your food prep and maybe a half an hour a day to actually sit and eat your meals, if you knew that was going to extend your life and the quality of your life, well, then maybe you would do it. So I definitely feel like, I don't even know if I like the word the medicine in the, maybe I have to think about a new way of phrasing it, because
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I think medicine has been attributed to the Western traditional medicine thinking, and coupling food with medicine. I don't know, does that disrupt that thinking on the medical side, on the traditional medicine side, that food is medicine? Is that a real disruptor? It is for me. But it would be interesting to see if there was another way to um, communicate that. And I'm open to that. Maybe we'll have a discussion about that at some point.
well, health is a nice word because health, it comes from that root of wholeness, you know.
Yes.
But a lot, but hospitals, medical institutions are making changes. The hospital that I know the dietitian very well, and she's got a, of course, pre-COVID has a beautiful garden there and grows a lot of their food and has everything sustainable and local and very high quality. So I think we've come far, but we have further to go.
Yes. Yes. Um, to the point where if every hospital had more healthy foods on their dietary list, feeding patients, I think we'd even have bigger results in what's happening in hospitals. And I know that there are some hospitals that have um, elevated their processes, that they are allowing like a vegan menu, and allowing patients to select. Because if I were to go to the hospital today, I wouldn't be able to eat a lot of the food that the hospitals serve.
Yeah, and some
So
doctors are actually giving patients, some doctors are giving patients prescriptions of healthy eating and sending them in the right direction. And a lot of hospitals do have this culinary medicine where people are learning how to cook. Certainly, where I am in Vermont, they have those kinds of programs where people can learn techniques to do the medicine using food.
yes, well, hopefully we will see more of that over time, especially as we know that people coming out of the pandemic are going to need that. So, I mean, there's been so much wisdom shared here today, Dr. Ellen. Thank you so much. Is there some wisdom that you think is really important to share in the short time we have left together that's going to make a positive impact on our audience?
I think I've said a lot. I would love to offer people the Love Yourself to Health, which you helped me with, which is a great booklet. It's free. If people want to learn what the self-love is, how to do it, it both teaches you, but I know you've enjoyed doing it, what self-love is, how to do it, with some journaling, and then just really my best tips around taking care of your body. I guess the only last tips too I would say is, we didn't talk too much about stress. Work on the stress piece and also work on the sleep piece, because sleep has a huge impact on your weight, on your appetite, on your overall well-being, as well as stress. So if you can keep your stress under control, and the quickest way to deal with your stress is just to breathe. So learning how to manage your stress in the moment, how to change your mindset, because especially if you're reaching for food to deal with your stress, try to find some ways that are more helpful than food, because food can only go so far. But take it in baby steps. I mean, there is that desire to change everything overnight, and some people do that. But in my experience, most people really need to take baby steps. They need to build with their self-efficacy, their confidence in themselves, to do this kind of work. And do it for yourself, do it for your family. And it's not that hard. And if you need help, there are tons of professionals out there who can support you.
Absolutely. And thank you. And we will be sharing the link to Dr. Ellen's book in the comments below the video. And we're also going to give you an opportunity to see some of the other things that are going on that you might be able to participate. Like, one of the things that I helped to also create is a program called Just One Thing for Health. And we've done so many great things with that. There's a free version, there's a digital version, and you can do a live version of it called the My Health, My Priority program. And it's been our pleasure to have partnered with Hippocrates Docs, a health advocacy group. And Just One Thing for Health, if you just go to just the number one thing for the number four health.com, you can sign up for the free email series. You'll get an email once a week that will have a lot of stuff in it. But more importantly, you're going to see some of the doctors and health professionals like Dr. Ellen, who are bringing you the message of doing just one thing at a time to improve your health, to boost your immune system, to reverse chronic illness and diabetes and other things. So take us up on the things that we're offering you here. And as part of the Health, Wisdom, and Wealth show, Dr. Ellen, thank you so much for being my guest here today, because you have shared some valuable things. We've covered so much, but it really has been the love you, love your life, love plants.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So thank you, everyone. Remember, the Health, Wisdom, and Wealth show happens right here every Tuesday at 2:22 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm Valen Hawkins, your host. Join us. Meet us right here next week. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and keep an eye out for what we'll be sharing and giving away to help you live your life, your best, healthiest life. Thanks again, everyone.